And one of the key ways is this social contract around being good at what you do. So, you know, when I was young, it's almost like a social contract. Pick what you want to do. You know, they expect you to know in high school, what do you want to be when you grow up? We ask kids that all the time. What are you going to be? And you're supposed to have an answer. And you're supposed to know before you finish school so you can pick your subjects. Absolutely by the time you get into university, so you know what you want to study. And that is supposed to be the rest of your life, the rest of your career. That's supposed to dictate it. Because the contract or the deal is, I get good, I become a master, I'm good, I'm set. You know, I've got employment. That is no longer relevant. That does not hold true anymore.
Welcome to another episode of the peopleHum interview series. I am your host Zia, and let's begin with a quick introduction of peopleHum. peopleHum is an end-to-end, one-view integrated human capital management automation platform, the winner of the 2019 Global Cody Award for HCM that is specifically built for crafted employee experience and the future of work. We run the peopleHum blog and video channel, which receives upwards of 200,000 visitors a year and publish around 2 interviews with well-known names globally every month. And for now, our guest. After a 20-year corporate HR career, Philippa Penfold now leads People Collider, providing education to HR professionals about the new and emerging technologies of the information age. Pip, as she is known, is also a HR tech startup mentor and advisor, a regular keynote speaker on HR and technology at regional and global conferences, a recognized thought leader on AI in human resources, and lectures at a Singapore university on human capital innovation. Welcome, Philippa. We're thrilled to have you.
Thank you. Please call me Pip.
Okay, I'll call you Pip. So for the first question I had for you, Pip, was, you've had quite an exciting journey so far. Can you tell us your story about how you came to be the CEO and co-founder at People Collider?
Sure, Sia, thank you. I guess the story started about 22 years ago when I began my career in human resources. That went for 20 years, but in about 2013, I started becoming curious about technology. I was working a lot in people, maybe I shouldn't have to mention the technology, but the technology that was very dominant back in 2013, implementing that tech. And subsequently kept working with technology in HR. When I finished my EMBA in about 2018, I decided to get off the corporate ladder and move into an HR tech startup. At that time, I got to see the vast difference between HR tech and HR. It sounds like it should be very close, but actually it's a long way apart. And I started getting very concerned for my colleagues that were still in HR and were not educating themselves about new or emerging technology. So they weren't understanding just how fundamentally transformative these techs are going to be to our function. And I got worried for them. I know you've been doing what you've done for over 20 years. You feel pretty secure in doing the same thing again for the next 20. But we know the next 20 years are not going to look anything like the 20 years that we've just been through. So without reskilling, we're going to have a lot of problems. And that's where the idea of People Collider actually began. We wanted to provide training that was specifically tailored to HR people on new and emerging technology. HR people didn't become HR people because we were interested in tech. Tech, numbers, this is not something that typically attracts us. And we've got a very basic knowledge at best. In fact, some of the stuff we know is actually wrong, or we think we know is actually wrong. So I really wanted to create a safe space for HR to learn about this content. And that's why People Collider was born. 2 other co-founders and I decided this was a problem we wanted to fix. And rather than going back into corporate or doing more in HR tech startups, I thought, yeah, this is the time to try and help move the profession along and my fellow professionals in it.
Absolutely. That's amazing. And I think technology is something that, has changed a lot in a lot of industries, and it's becoming more and more important with time to kind of focus on ensuring that, you learn more about tech and the way it affects the industry that you're in. So I think it's amazing that, you're trying to bridge that gap between HR and technology and bring that together with all the experiences that you have. It's amazing. So, my next question for you is, how do you think next-gen HR tech is changing the tenets of HR?
Yeah, that's a really good question, and an interesting one, because this is the fundamental reason about why we are worrying about re-educating HR at all. Our relationship with technology has to change because the very principles upon which HR are built, and HR and technology are built, are changing. The first one is around automation. We think that new tech just gives us new ways to, different ways to automate. HR looks at technology primarily from an efficiency. We take a process, we put it online. That's what we have done for a very long time. But automation is no longer just about efficiency, because it's not just what we are doing, we are changing. It is how we are doing it is fundamentally. So how and what we are doing is changing, versus in the old days, it was just take that horrible process and stick it online. So technology, next generation tech, gives us the opportunity to create value in ways that we would never have imagined before, for our people, for our employees, for our business, and for us as a function. And they are quite separate and independent. Something that is valuable for an employee may or may not be of value to the function, or even to the business. So it's trying to find the ways that we can create value independently, hopefully with a more customer-centric approach than we have had in the past to employees. And I think the other thing that we're looking at there is around the psychology. So we know that HR is supposed to be underpinned by some very strong psychological principles. And fundamentally, it was once upon a time. There's a lot that we do today that we do because that's what we do. We don't do it because that's what science says that is the best way of reaching that particular outcome. There has been a lot of new knowledge, new discoveries that have come in the psychological space. Now, if we think about the technology and what it is promising, it is making a lot of promises, not just from a technological perspective, but from a psychological perspective. Now, this can be really dangerous because often the tech that is built is not built upon sound psychological science. So we've got this strange situation that is really shaking the very foundation of HR at the moment, where what we do, because we've always done it, is being questioned and is questionable in terms of its efficacy and effectiveness, because we are seeing in the science of psychology that it is changing. And yet we are finding technologies that are actually ignoring psychology in even more than we are with our practices. So hopefully we can bring these two things together and address the gap between them. But these are very fundamental shifts. Now, you don't change a tenet of any function or those core principles and not find it extremely destabilizing. And that's what we're seeing at the moment.
Yeah. Well, I think you touched upon some very, very important aspects out there, from psychology to, trying to be more client-centric, and just how, there's the whole importance of, focusing on employees and, kind of connecting all the bridges together. And I think the developments that have come up with the new age is something that's constantly revolutionary, and, we need to keep incorporating that. But in order to be doing that, another important fact is skills. So that kind of brings me on to my next question, really. How should we be thinking about skills development in a world of automation?
It's a great question, Zia, because often when we think, oh, skills development, I don't work in tech, so I'll just do more of what I'm doing. So a lot of HR people just want to be better at HR stuff. And if you're in finance, you want to be better at finance. If you're in sales, you want to be better in sales. Actually, this is not where our skills need the most development. In fact, regardless across our careers, we need to think about a couple of things. First of all, what makes us unique and valuable as human beings? Now, I know that sounds a bit silly, but we all know the list of skills that were given out by the World Economic Forum, you know, creativity and so forth, critical thinking was on the list. Very human skills, things that we cannot get the computers to do yet. So enhancing those skills is very important for ourselves and for any work that we are doing. The depth of our hard skills, though, is an interesting one, about just how much do we need to go into it. I find today that the strongest people are not the ones who are experts and pure experts in their field. They are the ones that can cross fields and bring them together. For every role, it doesn't matter the role, it doesn't matter the area, technology will affect us all, is affecting us all, will affect us more in the future. So then the question is, what are we learning about technology? How do we learn to incorporate it into the work we're doing and shaping it rather than letting it shape us? So that's the next thing. So develop what is human, the very human skills, work out enough, develop enough knowledge to work with the technology to be able to incorporate it more effectively than your competitors. Look at developing across functions, not just within functions, because the future belongs to the people who can bring these specialist areas together, not the masters in a single expertise.
Well, I really appreciate the fact that, you know, you kind of focused on the things that we need to do to stay in line with technology and stay relevant with, you know, evolving technology, because today technology can do a lot of things that we used to do before. So it's really important for us to kind of, you know, pinpoint those areas that keep us relevant and make us, enable us to do the most with, you know, technology. So there is kind of like, you know, those two areas that are very important, and it causes a lot of insecurity, I think, today among employees as well. So it's very, very imperative to, you know, understand those. And I'm very glad that you pointed those out for, you know, our audience. And I'm sure it will really help those that listen. So in terms of, you know, HR and tech, you know, there is also another aspect, which is leadership. So in your role today, you are straddling both HR and IT. So how does this influence your approach to leadership?
That's it's a difficult one to answer because it's a difficult thing to do. So you're right. I do straddle these two worlds. You know, I don't just talk about being able to be specialists in more than one area, but to be bringing the spaces together. So the space that I occupy is no longer purely in HR. It's the white space between HR and IT. And I'll be honest, there's a lot of white space between us because we are very different functions, and typically we've not had a very good working relationship in the past. It has always been a little bit challenging. So when I look at it from a leadership perspective, I have some very unique challenges. The first is being able to inspire HR to come into this space as well. While it might seem great that I am here, there's actually very few of us that sit between HR and IT. And that is not good for either IT or HR. We need more people sitting between in the functions. So being able to inspire them with the confidence that not only is it important, but that they can do it and they have an important voice at the table, that their viewpoint is not just nice to have or good to have. It is critical. It is essential. We need people who understand the human condition to take part in the conversation around how do we build our future with technology. This cannot be left just up to the technologists. So how I inspire them is important, you know, because I look like them, I might sound like them, but to them, I don't look like them anymore because I get tech. And that takes me to another challenge, and that's about the language. The language of IT and the language of HR are extremely different. The lexicons, the vocabulary, the jargon, these are things that keep our worlds apart. In fact, as we know, when someone learns a language, not a business language, but a language like, you know, Mandarin and English, I guess they're two extreme examples, but it's not just can you say the words? Do you understand the lingo? Do you understand the meaning of an idiom? Can you use it in the right way? That's what it's like to be able to work in both fields, to be able to communicate effectively, really well, to be able to bring both sides together. That takes a lot of work. I'll be honest. And you have to be a bit of a chameleon, being able to spot exactly who you are talking to so that you can change your language, so that you know when to use plain English and leave the jargons aside, or when to wheel out a lot of good jargon so that they build confidence that you actually know what you're talking about. So that is another challenge that's really important when you're leading discussions. So oftentimes I'm leading through influence. I don't officially lead people. I lead by inspiring. I try and influence and inspire and encourage people to join me, much more than just lead. There's no, I don't have a hammer of any description. And the other thing, and it all relates when it comes to straddling the areas, is just how much time it takes. So we know that we've got our work network, our professional network, and our social network at home, our friends and family. And there's a lot of work to be done to keep the two together, to maintain our network. They say that the research suggests that we can manage 100 people in our network and maintain them as close. I can tell you, even when you're crossing two worlds, that 100 is a lot of work because you're constantly in different communities. I come out of one, I go and get involved in another one. But I cannot bridge without being involved in different communities. For me, I'm sort of the one that I will see. I don't see the same people. So think about when we are getting involved in different groups. It is easier to lead if you see some of the same people in every group that you go to. It is easier to assume a leadership position, or at least what looks like a leadership position, if you keep appearing in different networks. That's nice, but it's not what I'm trying to accomplish by bringing the two worlds together. So often when I go into a room or I go and join a community that I'm a part of, there is no one there that is in another network. There's zero redundancy in my network. That is very valuable, but in terms of what I'm trying to do for the communities, but it's extremely time consuming and exhausting personally. So that's I guess a leadership challenge that is unique. Hopefully I won't be alone forever, and I will see many more people across multiple networks.
I think the challenge that you've set for yourself, is something that is very, very difficult, and you've set upon a very, very difficult but very important and fulfilling journey trying to bridge these two areas together. And the fact that you focus on communication, and you've understood the depth of communication in terms of it's not just about the words but the lingo, and it's not just about just being able to speak it, it's about being able to communicate thoroughly and well. It's so key, and I'm sure you've been extremely successful at it so far, and I'm sure you're going to continue being very successful at it. Just the fact that you're trying to understand people and people from different places, it's very, very impressive. So having said that, I would love to know actually, what are the 3 most important lessons young professionals should consider in the development of their careers? Considering you've had such a journey, and you've really taken on a very, very, challenging career for yourself, and you've done so well. I would love to know, what are the 3 most, important lessons?
Yeah. Okay. Now, if there's parents listening, they have to block their ears. If you've got this on where your parents, can you just put your headphones on for a minute, because they're not going to like what I say next. First of all, what is before us does not look like what's behind us. The way that people should be thinking about their careers today is absolutely not what my generation was thinking about our careers at the start. Okay. Now, we usually come from a point of, we all want to help younger people. It's just, we always do. It doesn't matter how old we are, we always want to help. You even see a 3-year-old try and help a baby. We're wired to help the younger generations. And I know we get a lot of advice. I'm not alone in having got a lot of advice. What's difficult is figuring out, do we take it or not? Because I'll be honest, a lot of that advice is not relevant anymore. And one of the key ways is this social contract around being good at what you do. So, when I was young, it's almost like a social contract. Pick what you want to do. You know, they ask you, they expect you to know in high school, what do you want to be when you grow up? We ask kids that all the time. What are you going to be? And you're supposed to have an answer. And you're supposed to know before you finish school so you can pick your subjects. Absolutely by the time you get into university, so you know what you want to study. And that is supposed to be the rest of your life, the rest of your career. That's supposed to dictate it. Because the contract or the deal is, I get good, I become a master, I'm good, I'm set. You know, I've got employment. That is no longer relevant. That does not hold true anymore. So the notion of being okay if you are an expert in one, that's gone. It's gone for every generation, just some figuring it out quicker than others. Okay, and it's because it's being changed by technology. Think of it this way as well. Innovation, real innovation, the radical, disruptive, exciting stuff does not live in a single expert area. The sparks of innovation fly when two separate functions or two separate specialties collide. That's where you get the really exciting stuff. So when you're thinking about your career, we need to move way past, I need to be the master of one. You need to be the master of two or three. And you don't just have to master them, you've got to be the bridge between them. Our uniqueness does not come from being the best in one. It is being able to package a unique set of skills across two or three areas, and the connecting skills and the knowledge of technology that helps you bring those to bear to solve problems, not to get a job, to solve problems. If you focus on the problems that you're interested in solving, there's a lot more flexibility in your career. With this, we can never stop learning. Now, I know everyone hears continuous learning, and it's almost to the point where we're bored with it. But the important thing is we learn not just so we can do. We learn because we're satisfying curiosity, because to do that allows us to look to the horizon more effectively. Because think about it, our development, we can't change like that. Now, you can change tech like that, but you can't change us like that. If we're going to pivot, we need time to develop those skills and to learn and to build experience. So you've always got to be preparing yourself for what's on the horizon, not what you need right now. If you're developing yourself for what you need right now, you're already too late. Okay? Look to the horizon and think, satisfy your curiosity, keep reading, keep learning, and try and imagine what you're going to need in the future. You'll get at the hang of it. You'll start seeing cues. And to be able to do that, you must vary your diet of data. Now, you're probably thinking, diet of data? What is she talking about? Crazy old woman. So what I mean by that is we, especially if we're a specialist in an area, we tend to read the same stuff. You know, I'm sure you subscribe to a few newsletters, you're members of similar groups, and you have all this stuff piling into your phone, or information coming at you on a regular basis. Google knows what you look for the most. It knows what parameters that you are putting into search. Okay, your diet of data is not varied. You will read a lot of the same stuff. In fact, I'll bet you've all read something in the last week that you go, yep, okay, I knew that. Now, I'll tell you, if you've read something and you've thought that, you've completely wasted your time. What is the point in reading something you know already? Our time is precious. We need to read something that is new. We need to learn. Okay, so we have to work out, how do we vary our diet of data? How do we use the algorithms to feed us something slightly different, so that when we read something, you think, I had no idea, that's really interesting. And it makes you go and look for something else. So that's it. You're more than master of one. You're constantly looking to the horizon, and you're varying your diet of data to satisfy your curiosity in a continuous learning space.
Those, I think, were amazing points that you made out there. Especially the last one is something I know that I will take away as very, very key. All three are very important, but just thinking of using the algorithm in a way that could benefit you is something that's so I don't think that's something that has never occurred to me, and I don't think most people think like that. But even though we're constantly aware of how the algorithm works, and it works in a way that it gives you what you know, it's very, very interesting to see that there is the opportunity out there to really use it to learn more instead of, just reading the same thing. And I think everyone who watches this is really, really going to appreciate those 3 points, because it's something that especially young professionals need to consider, especially at a starting stage. It's very, very imperative. So thank you for that. And it was an absolute pleasure talking to you, Pip. And I really appreciate your time and you sharing all this information with us. It was very, very inspiring and very, very informative. And yeah, thank you so much for your time and coming on here today.
You're very welcome. It's a pleasure to join you, and good luck to everyone who is listening. Stay curious.